Hi, this is Forrest Pumpkin, and this is part of the rant series, as I'm calling it, on the urban environment. And the first one's entitled The First Conflict of an Urban Environment: Legal versus Desired. Now, I guess the easiest way of describing it is the parallel to architectural design, which in turn has to do with semiotics. Very briefly, semiotics is when an architect means to design something to be used in a certain method or fashion, and at the end it results in being used another way. Um, so you might intend a bench to be sat on, for example, but no one's sitting on it. Well, just because you think it's a bench doesn't mean that people want to sit on it. Or quite the contrary, you put a planter where you didn't want people to sit on, and people start sitting on it because it's under this tree, and people can sit on it. And these things start communicating with one another about what works and what doesn't. Just from my own experience, think about it. If you want to cross a street and there's no crosswalk, what do? Well, I think most people, I mean, I'm not going to be a sociologist about this, but most people will still walk. Usually they'll look at their options, but they'll end up walking if there's not a light or anything nearby and there's no cars coming and they don't think they're unsafe. One of my favorite examples is when they don't want people to walk, so they decide to spend all this money on something called a sky bridge. But still, if you walk up, there's no crosswalk, but there's a sky bridge, but there's little traffic. Why wouldn't you jaywalk? It would save you a lot of ups and downs and walking across this boring bridge. And oftentimes we see that, don't we? But in theory, that is not legal. That is not something that you should or can legally do. I believe most jurisdictions will give you a ticket for jaywalking. But these unused bulky bridges, often ones with towering stairs, and sometimes even ADA accessible ramps, are supposed to make it much easier and desirable. I've seen one in Prince George's County around College Park. I've seen one in Columbia, Maryland, in the Harper's Choice Village area. But when it comes to the public arena and the pedestrian and vehicular commingling, as I will call it, there's a lot more written on this. But I think my notion is really kind of the perceived versus what is legal. Just because there's a sign that says "do not do something" doesn't mean that people aren't going to do it. Um, and I think that is pretty much one of the basic fundamental building blocks of any discussion when it comes to urbanism. And when we're looking at more detail-oriented things, such as, well, should there be a lot of trees on this median, or should there be a kind of a wall along this road? Keeping in mind those kind of spatial interactions will be imperative, I believe.